Good evening, and welcome to this Equestrian Life. I'm Skywest Grass. Each time on our show, we choose a theme, and of course, bring you different stories on that theme. This week's show, Magic, stories of magic both seen and unseen. Our show today in three parts. Chapter 1, Magic is, well, magic. A story of a young colt so taken by a traveling magician that he chooses to dedicate his life to magic, despite one obvious handicap. Chapter 2, Magic Shy. Our apple cider and Chef Sandy take a moment to explore why Sandy and unicorns don't always see eye to eye. In Chapter 3, Magic is the ground beneath our hooves. I'll talk with a wheat farmer from Bronyville who explains his own special type of magic. That's this time on This Equestrian Life. Stay with us.
Chapter 1, Magic is, well, magic. It's easy when you're young to get carried away with aspirations of the future. You might even say it's a part of colthood. Young Dazzler was no exception. After seeing a traveling musician, Dazzler decides to dedicate his life to performing magic. Only problem is, he's an earth pony. Contributor Fluffyhoof has this story.
My nephew Dazzler's a good kid. A good, albeit enthusiastic, kid. He lives with my sister Roseluck in a little town called Ponyville. And every once in a while, I get the chance to come up from Appalanta to visit them. And every time I do, Rose tells me stories about what Dazzler's decided he wants to be when he grows up. They usually have something to do with what his friends are doing or what he's learned about in school, and they're usually pretty cute, too. One time, he wanted to be a fire pony. Another time, he wanted to be an apple farmer, and then there was a time he decided he was going to be the new town librarian. I guess that's just normal for a little colt who's still looking to find his cutie mark. On my most recent visit, Rose seemed a little concerned. He was taking his latest interest a little too far for her, to the point of obsession almost, she said. I tried explaining to her that it's just Daz being Daz, but I told her I'd talk to the colt anyway.
Hey Dazzler, can I ask you a question?
Sure, Uncle Floofy.
So what do you want to be when you grow up?
A magician.
A magician? Wow. What are you going to do?
Magic.
The story I got from Rose was that there
Where'd you
was
get
this
this
traveling
idea from?
magician passing through town, and
That's a
Dazzler went to go
magician.
see her.
She's cool.
And ever since then, he's just been
was her name?
infatuated with the idea of doing magic.
The great
And that's a
and
pretty big
powerful
dream for a
Trixie.
little earth pony.
So tell me about Trixie. What was she like?
She's pretty and magical and pretty
Wow. And what did she do?
magic tricks. I want to be just like her when I grow up.
That's good. Can you show me a trick?
I'm still working on it.
How are you going to do magic without a horn?
I'm gonna try hard.
I know you will, sport. Now show me that trick you're working on.
Okay.
I've had to hand it to the kid. He's got ambition on his side. And for being a bit of a fumblefool, he's got that whole sleight of hoof thing almost down. I barely saw him pull that flower out of his sleeve. I was almost convinced that this was going to be just another passing fancy of his. But his mom just wouldn't let it go. She told me to go hang around him for a while, and I'd see what she meant. So I did. The whole point of my trip was to spend time with him, after all. Sure enough, Rose was right. Magic and Trixie were all Dazzler seemed to want to talk about. To me, to his mom, to his friends, to anybody who would listen, really, and to some people who wouldn't. He went on and on about how he was going to do magic tricks and perform in shows and travel all over Equestria, just like his idol. Now, I was starting to get a little worried, too. Rose and I shared the same fear, that Dazzler was going to get made fun of for taking his wild aspirations so seriously. After all, only unicorns can use magic like you see in the shows. To my surprise, though, he was okay. He didn't get teased, or picked on, or bullied. Foals can be so cruel sometimes, but they can also be very understanding. I don't know whether it was respect for him for being so gung-ho, or pity, or whether they just didn't know the limitations. But Dazzler's classmates seemed to look up to him for wanting to be a great and powerful magician. They loved his tricks, even the botched ones. So much so that his teacher encouraged him to perform in the school talent show. His mother was not happy. She eventually came around and let him enter, but it was hard for her. She was still afraid of him hurting himself, of him realizing something he wanted so bad would just never happen, and of him blaming her for not protecting him from himself. In the end, we decided all she could do was be supportive of her son. So the night of the talent show, We were there in the audience. It was a fun show, and I got a chance to talk to Dazzler right afterwards.
Hey, Daz. Great job.
Thanks, Uncle Floofy.
So, did you win?
No,
Why not?
because Snips and Snails are better than me.
Why do you think that is?
More practice?
You gonna try again next time?
Yeah,
Why's that?
because I know I can do better.
In his own childish way, Dazzler explained to me that he didn't care that he lost, and he didn't care that he couldn't do quote-unquote real magic. What he really cared about was that he loved doing his magic, his own special form of magic. And he loved the people who were entertained by his magic. And most importantly, he didn't mind if people thought he was a fool for pouring his heart and soul into something that he knew probably would never happen. He was pursuing his dream, and that was something that made him happy. And that's what he was going to do. That was a lesson I'd forgotten. A lesson I think a lot of us have forgotten. Somewhere in the process of growing up, we start swapping our far-fetched fantasies for more feasible goals because, I don't know, because it's expected of us? When it comes right down to it, you've got to do what makes you happy. And it took a great and powerful magician to show me that. Because in the end, magic, like life, is only what you make of it.
It's just Equestrian Life. Our theme this week is magic, both seen and unseen. Now, Chapter 2, Magic Shy. It's not much of a secret that Chef Sandy has an aversion to magic. Well, at least a particular flavor of magic. Producer Apple Cider got curious and sat down to get to the bottom of this.
I just always thought it kind of funny, Sandy. We've got friends that are unicorns all over the place. We've got Pixel Kitty. She's a good friend of ours, and but we always kind of have it's weird. It's kind of like a playful like ha ha ha, but kind of on the back end it's not.
It's just one of those things you don't encounter much growing up, and then you're kind of smacked in the face of it when you reach wider society. And of course, we live in Ponyville, and it's a very mixed town. You've got members of all three tribes, plus you got the occasional griffin coming in. You've got donkeys and cows, and even a couple diamond dogs from time to time.
I mean, Appalachia, it was definitely more diverse over in that area, but it was never anything that it's just such an interesting idea of just this insular community that you came from, and then just that there was nothing, that it was only Earth ponies. That's so strange to me, just being in a mixed community like for the longest time.
Well, we did have a few Pegasi, but yeah, there's really, I guess there wasn't really any reason for any unicorns to be around the town. I mean, it was a semi-arid little hamlet near a river bend, and we grew our crops and traded with the tribes, and I guess we were beneath their notice. I don't know. It was certainly not like the town is prejudiced against them. It's just nobody ever had a reason to come out here.
That is really strange on that. It makes me wonder, thinking about it makes me wonder how Pegasi are like that. They have Cloudsdale. That's an entire city that unicorns and Earth ponies can have no access to. Do they have some of these similar feelings?
I would guess so. I mean, consider, they're the ones who help control the weather in Equestria. Unicorns can't really do it. Earth ponies certainly can't. I'm sure that there's some Pegasi out there that have a pretty deep-seated superiority complex. But they're also not the ponies that come and live down amongst everybody else, too. They probably keep to their cloud cities and don't mingle with us.
And you have to imagine that they probably have some of that as well. They're just like, what's up with all this magic stuff, or what's up with these guys that are all about the ground and everything that's part of this. I'm part of the sky magic. Woo!
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you have to grow up and understand that everybody needs to get along, and everybody has their own strengths, but when you're growing up in a community like that where you're not exposed to anybody else, it can give you some strange ideas and make things difficult when you first start out. I mean, I'll admit that, at least with my background, there were some unicorns that were really rude to me, and it didn't help that I hadn't known that many. And, like you said, we've got good friends, Pixel, and there's plenty of unicorn clients that come into our restaurant, and everybody gets the same quality food and service. We'd never turn anybody away. So it's just a background thing. Certainly not who I am today, especially after had to take those classes.
That was so. The story on the classes was just an overhand conversation that was said at the restaurant, and somebody just took offense.
Yeah, well, thankfully the Equestrian Friendship Corps wasn't that hard to deal with, and the Harmony initiatives that Princess Celestia put in place after Luna came back to have a more peaceful, integrated society. It was a learning experience, and I did feel kind of bad, and I had to learn to watch my tongue a bit, because I don't want anybody feeling that they're not welcome at my restaurant.
It's just one of those things, kind of like looking forward. Like I don't ever want anyone to go like, oh man, like he doesn't like unicorns. Like that's the thing that I'm always just like half on edge about, of just like, no, it's not that at all. It's a different thing. It's more of like a threat than anything else. Like a spooky perceived threat that's never going to actually come, but it's there.
Well, think about it. If all of a sudden you're this student going into the, quote, big city for the first time, because Salt Lake City's not that big, honestly. It pales in comparison to, Las Pegasus or even Canterlot. And Canterlot's not that big. If you want big, you talk about Manhattan. But the first time you see something, surrounded in aura and fly off the table, it's going to scare you. And even if you know unicorns have magic, until you see it and you're not accustomed to it, it'll startle you. But again, like I said, we've gotten used to it and we have unicorn friends. It still weirds me a little, I'll be completely honest. But, I accept it and I understand that my friends, we're all different, we all have our own strengths, and if a unicorn can pick up a tree limb and throw it out of the way a lot faster than I could buck it.
Do you think that there's any
great.
like Pegasi or unicorns that look at what we can do and just kind of like shake their heads? They're just kind of like, how can you make as I said, you go out to the prairie and just like get a 5-course meal, or the intricacies of how. Do you think that there's some mystery to that as well?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, Earth ponies being able to make things grow quickly and through our own kind of magic is unique to us. And, being able to go out and forage and find things that a unicorn or Pegasus would basically find a few scraggly roots and some berries, that's a real talent. That's a real ability. And, being able to get plants to grow really quick means that, we can keep people fed really easy. We're a very important part of equestrian society.
It's This Equestrian Life. I'm Scarus Grass. Each week we choose a theme and then bring you various stories of that theme. This week, magic, both seen and unseen. We've arrived at Chapter 3 of our program. Magic is the ground beneath our hooves.
It's widely known that unicorns use their magic to benefit their lives and the lives of those around them. But what if it's not just unicorns who can use their magic to better the world? Well, I was very lucky to get a chance to speak to a pony named Pine Needle. He's an earth pony farmer living in Bronyville. And he told me about something he calls earth pony magic. Pine Needle, thank you so much for inviting us into your home. Tell me, both you and earth pony magic are from a place called Stalingrad. Can you tell us about that?
I am most honored to be sharing my home with you, my friend. My home city of Stalingrad, she is much farther north of Bronyville, and as such is colder and has shorter days and also a much shorter growing season. We also had several different plants and animals in Stalingrad, not normally found in other areas like Bronyville. The trees around my home, for example.
Yes, I notice these trees are unlike any of the others I've seen. What are they called?
They are called pine trees. I had brought them with me as saplings when I left Stalingrad, as a way to remember my home by. When I arrived in Bronyville, I felt through the earth to find a place to plant my saplings so they would best grow, and I chose that area for my home. Some weeks later, they had grown into the trees you see before you today.
So, when you say you felt through the earth,
Was I using earth pony magic? Yeah,
can you tell us more about your magic in more detail?
most certainly. It is, in essence, the connection that earth ponies share with the world around them. It is how the earth reacts to you and you to it. It is much unlike the unicorn magic that ponies are most used to, where one actively uses their magic to change something around them. For earth ponies, it is more of an unconscious ability where you always are making little changes around you. In fact, most do not even know they are using it. A good example would be my town's tradition of the running of the leaves. In this case, all ponies work together to make a change in the trees, causing the leaves to fall. It is an extreme example, but I feel it illustrates the point well.
How did you discover you had this ability?
When I was little, I had learned to feel the earth from my father, and his father who taught him, and his father who taught him, and so on and so on.
Can you tell us the origin of earth pony magic?
It was long ago in Stalingrad, where the winters is most cold and the growing season is most short. Farmers had to pay close attention to the crops to make sure there would be enough grain to feed the families throughout the winter. With so much attention being given to the plants and to the earth, some ponies started to notice they had more success than others. They began to experiment and change the way they grew their crops. They found the closer they paid attention and listened to the earth, the better they would do. Most just dismissed this as having, a green hoof. But a small group of farmers, including my family, saw it for what it was: magic.
I can't imagine that would be an easy thing to accept. How receptive are ponies when you tell them about this?
I am most met with skepticism. Even my friends haven't been quick to accept that earth ponies have their own form of magic. I have slowly been winning them over, I feel, but I do not expect to convince many more than those who are close to me. It is, however, better than it used to be. In Stalingrad, in the old days, my family were ostracized for their beliefs. Nowadays, it is more socially accepted there, but I have not seen anywhere outside of Stalingrad where it is practiced.
How has your ability to use earth pony magic benefited you personally?
For one, it has helped me find employment. When I had first come to Bronyville, it was right before the harvest season. My friend Haystack was looking for help on his farm, so he hired me on temporarily at first. His lands, they are not, the best for farming, and he was suffering from it. So I spent some time in the fields before the harvest, and after his crops yielded more than they had in several seasons, he decided to keep me on despite my initial problems getting used to the new area. On a more personal note, it is nice to know that there is something special that you can do that not many other ponies can. I feel it has made me more comfortable with myself and my surroundings, especially after having moved to a new place where I had known no pony.
Thank you, Pine Needle. Before we go, is there anything else you'd like to say?
If I could add anything, it would be that even though earth ponies themselves may not believe they have their own special magic. It is still there and is something that makes them special, and they should take pride in that.
Pine Needle is a Stalingradian native and a wheat farmer in Ponyville. Special thanks today to Lawrence Brown for letting Pine Needle come on the show. Lawrence is the author of several pony-themed stories, including Moonbeam. You can find his work online at fanfiction.net and search author Lawrence Brown. A big thanks also to the real Ira Glass, host of This American Life from WBEZ Chicago Public Radio, for without him, there would have been no inspiration for this show. So if you enjoyed our show today and you like the format, I strongly recommend you visit their website, thisamericanlife.org, where you can listen for free to the latest episode or download previous episodes. This Equestrian Life is distributed by Bronyville and BronyShow.com. Inspiration for themes and settings come from Hasbro and Studio B's My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Management oversight by our boss, Mr. Apple Cider, who has a sort of fan worship thing going for Twilight Sparkle.
I want to be just like her when I grow up.
Back next time with more stories of This Equestrian Life.